A leopard may spend tens of minutes closing the final few yards before a hunt. For the leopard, securing a meal is only half the story. A leopard does not want to begin with speed. It seeks to close the distance before the chase is forced into motion. Every thicket, every dip in the ground, every swath of tall grass can be used to make its body vanish from the prey's view. When one animal in the herd lifts its head, the leopard freezes at once. The prey's attention shifts elsewhere, and the approach resumes. Each patch of cover narrows the gap a little further, no more. This process can continue for a very long time, and for much of it there is little obvious movement at all. That is when the hunt is truly underway, even if the eye can barely perceive it. When the herd begins to react in unison, the concealment phase ends. The leopard is forced to turn to speed, while the quarry ahead is also moving into broader, more open terrain. An analysis across multiple African ecosystems suggests that most of the prey leopards take belongs to the small to medium size range, markedly smaller than the species that pack-hunting predators can exploit. This fits a strategy of solitary ambush. Living alone, a leopard cannot rely on teammates to salvage an approach that has been exposed too early. Much of its advantage, then, must be created before the chase begins, rather than during it. But a successful hunt on the ground creates an entirely different problem. The leopard does not need to drive its rival out of the whole area. It only needs to move the food source to a place where the rival's advantage is sharply reduced. Dragging prey that weighs nearly as much as, or even more than its own body, is no simple task. The leopard moves slowly, stopping repeatedly to adjust both its strength and the direction of the pull. Behind it, the rival continues to close the distance. A tree ahead presents a new option. The leopard shifts from moving horizontally to climbing, and even once aloft. Below, the rival does not leave immediately. It may continue to wait, watching for any change in the tree. Studies in the Sabi Sands region show that the behavior of hoisting prey into trees is closely linked to the risk of losing a food source, especially when hyenas are present in the area. Individuals that cache their food high above the ground may also be able to continue using that resource for longer than food left on the ground. This is not merely a habit. It is an energetic investment, a costly trade-off made in exchange for prolonged access to a meal. But trees are not merely a pantry. For some individuals, they become part of the hunt itself. On the ground, the leopard's greatest advantage is its ability to remain unseen. But once the chase moves into the canopy, the rules change entirely. The leopard shifts from the ground into a lattice of branches with entirely different spacing and stability. Every movement demands its own calculation. Which limb is strong enough? What gap can be cleared? Which angle of approach preserves silence? The prey ahead is also using this three-dimensional space, which means the leopard's advantage no longer lies simply in climbing ability, but in reading its opponent's route correctly. For a leopard, a tree trunk is not merely a place to stash food. It is also a vantage point from which to survey the surrounding territory, a safer place to rest than the ground, and in some cases, the very starting point of a hunt. Leopards remain creatures of both land and trees, drawing on whichever realm best suits the moment, depending on the circumstances. Unlike a herd of prey scattered across the grassland, a primate group has multiple individuals watching at different heights and from different directions at once. The leopard must close the distance, while the risk of detection can come from both the trees and the ground below. Approaching a group with a complex social structure demands a very different strategy from stalking a herd of herbivores. Leopards have an exceptionally flexible diet. A study of predator populations in Malawi documented a wide array of potential prey for leopards within the same ecosystem, ranging from small hoofed mammals to primates and even large rodents. Each prey type presents its own challenge of approach. There is no single strategy. That works for all. Avoiding another leopard is often less costly than testing boundaries through a direct encounter. Scent left along the trail, sounds carried from afar, and familiar travel routes can all convey information before the two animals ever meet. One individual remains in place watching. The other continues along the edge of the territory, never moving straight in. The distance between them keeps shifting as both animals continually assess the other's response. A signal may be vocal, or it may be a change in posture that alters the direction both individuals take. This interaction is usually brief. It ends when one of the two deliberately increases the distance and leaves the area. Leopards are solitary animals, but that does not mean they live without a social life. Research into competition around food sources shows that the presence of another leopard, a lion, or a hyena can all drastically shorten the amount of time an individual is able to feed. In other words, competition with members of their own species may be just as important as competition with other species. Elevating the food into the canopy removes many of the hyena's options, but it does not create an entirely safe refuge. When a climbing opponent arrives, the leopard must reassess the entire situation. The rival continues to gain height along the trunk. The leopard shifts position among the branches, trying to maintain distance while staying close enough to the food source. The gap between the two sides narrows steadily. It may choose to hold its ground, or it may decide to abandon the section of tree now under pressure. Hoisting prey into a tree is a strategy to reduce the risk of losing a meal, to rivals not an absolute safeguard. A leopard must still constantly weigh the value of the food source against the threat posed by lions, hyenas, and even other leopards. A leopard living alone need only manage its own risks. But when a cub is with her, every decision to leave to hunt, choose shelter, or move to a different area begins to affect more than one individual. The mother departs to hunt, leaving the cub in what is presumed to be a safe location. The wait can be prolonged, and the cub often remains silent, minimizing its movements. When the mother returns, the food source is shared between the two animals. But the appearance of a stranger anywhere near the area, even at a distance, is enough to make her immediately alter her behavior, often by leading the cub to another location. Young macaques spend much of their early lives following their mothers, watching and imitating fundamental movements, how to move low to the ground, how to climb trees, how to approach an object slowly. Trailing their mothers creates opportunities to observe and repeat the motions that will later be essential for independent life. This is not a process taught in discrete step-by-step instructions, but one learned through observation and self-directed experimentation. This captures the entire issue that has run through the discussion. A hunt does not end simply when the prey is within reach. It is only truly over when the food source is secured. The first stage is to close the distance to the prey slowly, patiently, and by making use of every fragment of cover the terrain can offer. The second stage is to seize control of the situation when the approach gives way to pursuit, and the outcome becomes far more certain. The third stage, and the one most often overlooked when discussing this species, is the rapid assessment of where the food can be held before another competitor appears, whether that be a hyena, a lion, or another leopard. Leopards are not optimized to win every confrontation. They are optimized to reduce the number of confrontations that ever have to happen. Using terrain cover shortens the time spent being pursued. Climbing trees reduces competition with species that cannot follow. Activity patterns can also be adjusted to lower the chance of encountering certain rivals. A broad diet also means they are not tied to a single prey species. Some camera trap studies have even recorded that female leopards tend to shift their activity over time in response to the presence of hyenas and other male leopards in the area, suggesting that avoidance of competition may begin very early, long before the two sides ever actually meet. The leopard is often remembered for the moment it emerges from where its prey cannot see it. But this cat's ability to survive is built over a far longer process. Choosing the approach route, stopping when the opportunity has already passed. Moving food out of a rival's reach. Avoiding conflicts that do not offer enough reward, and when conditions change, finding another way to hunt. For the leopard, silence does more than secure a meal. It allows the species to live among larger predators without having to confront them all.